Greetings, fellow travelers, vagrants, explorers, wildlanders, and welcome to episode 75 of the Retro Wildlands. My name is Nomad, and this is my gaming podcast where I like to share my thoughts and experiences with a video game that I have discovered or rediscovered while roaming the gaming wildlands. Thank you very much for tuning into the show today. I am very excited to see you today, and I cannot wait to get things rolling, so make your way over to the campfire and settle in, my friend. Dee Dee, our canine expedition leader, is already making the rounds to ensure that you and everybody else taking a load off is well tended to. Dexter, canine head of security and protection, is out busy keeping an eye out for any unsavory folk. But honestly, I don't think Dexter is going to have to worry about much. It's a brand new year, and 2026 is upon us. Everyone should be in a fantastic mood because whatever the hell 2025 was is now safely in our rearview mirrors. It's a new year, which means it's a brand new beginning. There's so much to look forward to. New projects to tackle, new goals to set, and maybe some new resolutions to form and most likely abandon in the first few months of the year. Still, there's nowhere to go but forward, but anytime we do find ourselves heading into a new year, I personally can't help but look back and see where we've been. 2025 has not been without its quirks, that is for sure, but it's all about perspective when you do look back and take stock. For me, looking back makes me smile. I got to see my stepkids grow up a little more, with one of them becoming a full-fledged adult this year. I still have a steady job that helps pay the bills, I've got a roof over my head, plenty of food on the table, 2 awesome doggos, and a beautiful wife that is somehow okay with all of my nerdy hobbies, who's actually been killing it at her own job this year. All things considered, 2025 has been a pretty decent year, especially in the world of video games. I have had the privilege to partake in a lot of games this past year, both retro and modern. At some point last year, I had made the lofty goal of completing around 50 video games in 2025 and taking a huge chunk out of my backlog. I am pleased to say that I crushed that goal by completing, as of this recording, 57 games. In all honesty, I think I went a little overboard this past year, mainly because I got bit hard by the trophy hunting bug and really went after some 100% completions this past year. While I'm very happy with my total, there were some bigger name games I did not partake in this year like I was hoping, but that's okay. I experienced a lot of games this past year, many for the first time, tackled some big titles that I finally got off my backlog, and played through a game that almost literally changed my life this past year. So, with that said, as it is becoming tradition around here, I wanted to start the year off by talking about the games that really made an impression on me this past year with a good old-fashioned top 10 list. And to spice some things up, I put a call out to the Retro Wildlands community over on our social media platforms in an effort to give anyone who wanted to highlight their favorite games played in 2025 a chance to shine. So I'll be sprinkling in those comments as we go. Now, before we jump headfirst into my top 10 games played in 2025, allow me to set the table. First, this is my top 10 video games that I played and completed in 2025, not necessarily the games that were released in 2025. I generally don't jump on brand new releases all that often, just given all the other games that I want to play, and it takes a special game for me to bump a brand new release to the top of my pile. And to clarify what I mean by quote-unquote completed, that means I at least played the game through the game's main story and saw the end credits. Like last year, I did go on to achieve 100% completion on several of these games by getting all of the in-game achievements or that coveted PlayStation Platinum trophy though. I have a hard time not going all in on a game, especially if I really resonated with it. Second thing about my list to specify is that I am including all games that I've played and completed in 2025, even games that I played for the podcast, or even other podcast projects that I've been a part of. I mean, it's still a game after all. And finally, I'm ranking these games based on the following criteria. 1. how good I felt the game was overall. 2, how genuinely fun it was for me to play it. 3, would I recommend that game to a friend? And 4, would I ever play that game again? If there was a game that I played that hit all 4 of these points, there was a very good chance that it landed on this list somewhere. Alright, I think that is plenty of setup. It's about time we get into this thing and talk about the video games that really knocked my socks off this past year. Let's start ranking my top 10 video games played in 2025. Number 10. Number 10 on my list of favorite games played in 25 is a little gem I discovered on the original Nintendo called Jackal. One of my favorite things about this podcast and my retro gaming journey is discovering games that I've never heard about, then wondering why more people haven't heard about them. Jackal was an interesting beast though. I'll be honest, when I finally sat down to play Jackal for episode 68 of this podcast, I kind of braced myself. Sometimes when I pick up an older retro game, I expect it to feel rough or overly punishing, and while that can still be enjoyable, it's not always something I'd recommend to everybody. However, Jackal surprised me in all the right ways. If you've never played Jackal or haven't heard my episode on it, it is a top-down, run-and-gun style action game where you control a small tactical jeep behind enemy lines. Your mission is to move through stages filled with enemy soldiers, tanks, and bases, all while you rescue prisoners of war and escort them to extraction points. It's also worth noting that you're doing all of this while dodging bullets and explosions from every direction. The game is fast, it's chaotic, and it's built around constant forward momentum. On the surface, the big draw is the action-packed gameplay, but what really sold me was how simple and accessible this game was. I love deep, modern gaming experiences, but sometimes I just want something straightforward that still scratches that gaming itch, and Jackal does exactly that. Plus, this game can be played with a friend, and I know I would have had a ton more fun if I had one of those to play this game with. Still, even solo, I still found myself popping this game in on occasion, even today. In a world where so many big budget games are packed with massive maps, endless objectives, and walls of dialogue, I really think there's still a strong need for games that are just fun, engaging, and easy to pick up and play. Jackal fits that bill perfectly, so if you're ever looking for a retro game to try, especially if you want something you can play with a friend, spouse, or a family member, hop into a tactical jeep and see where the day takes you. I can pretty much guarantee it'll be an experience that you won't soon forget. Before we move on, let's take a moment to check in with the community and highlight one of your favorite games played in 2025. Jim, over on our Facebook page, chimed in and said, "I was pleasantly surprised by Mouthwashing. Didn't know what to expect, just heard good things about it. Ended up being one of my favorite horror experiences this year. Also started getting back into Fallout 76 after being away from it for a few years. That game has come a long way since launch, and I'm sucked right back into it." Fantastic picks, Jim, especially Mouthwashing. That game has been popping up on my radar more and more, and every time I hear someone talk about it, I kick myself a little for not having played it yet. I love horror games, and that's one that I really need to carve out time to play, so hearing it end up as one of your favorite horror experiences this year just bumped it up even higher on my list. Plus, that graphical style is right up my alley. And then there's Fallout 76. That is a game with a true comeback story. I can see how walking away from it and then coming back to it years later almost feels like discovering a completely different game entirely. Makes absolute sense to me why you're sucked back into it right now. I've had a copy on my shelf for a while now, and ever since the TV series launched, I feel like it's been silently willing me to play it, so that's just another on the someday pile for me too. Thank you for sharing your favorites, Jim. Great picks.
Number 9.
A game that quite literally came out of nowhere for me. Number 9 on my list of favorite games last year is a game that I'm a little ashamed that I waited so long to play, but I am so glad I finally did. And that game is called Fear. Or more specifically, F.E.A.R. if we're getting technical. Fear, which stands for First Encounter Assault Recon, is a game that blends a first-person shooter with psychological horror, mixing intense gunfights with unsettling, spooky moments that mess with your head just as much as your trigger finger. I absolutely loved playing this game. As I'm sure most of you know by now, I am a huge fan of spooky video games, and the idea of combining that with a first-person shooter really resonated with me. The gameplay is a big highlight, especially that slow motion mechanic. Slowing down time, lining up shots, and turning enemies into a bloody red paste with a shotgun never got old. The combat feels weighty, responsive, and incredibly satisfying, and it does a great job of making you feel powerful one moment and then completely on edge the next. The enemy AI was pretty remarkable for the time too, where enemies would react to you in real time based on how you fought, and they were always looking for ways to use the environment to take advantage of you and then get the drop on you and outmaneuver you in all sorts of different ways. The story itself was intriguing, though I'll admit I had a hard time fully following it because the PlayStation 3 version of the game suffers from some pretty rough audio quality. Even so, the horror elements really landed for me. Some of the jump scares were predictable, but others genuinely got me, and I loved how some of the creepiest moments happen in real time. If you're not looking in the right direction, you might miss them entirely, which is a very smart design choice in my opinion, and makes replays especially rewarding. I highly recommend Fear. The combat is genuinely fun, the tension is gripping, and it's an experience well worth checking out. It's also worth mentioning that I probably wouldn't have played this game if not for the Retro Hangover Podcast, who was nice enough to let me stop over and talk about Fear. Absolutely check out that episode, which you can find a link to on our website, and absolutely check out the Retro Hangover Podcast. Chris and Shane were awesome to hang out with, and their show is one that I listen to with some regularity, so it gets a hearty recommendation from me.
The dead man's name was Charles Haberger. I remember him. But are the memories mine or hers? It makes no difference. He deserved to die. They all deserve to die.
Speaking of the Retro Hangover Podcast, they chimed in with their favorite game played in 2025. I assume this was Chris, but maybe it was Shane, but either way, they said, Killer 7 was my number 1. I loved the trippy, fucked up atmosphere and unique gameplay style. Took me a bit more by surprise than I was expecting. Killer 7 as a number 1 pick is a bold choice, and honestly, I love that. I've never played it myself, but its presentation is one of those things that just sticks with you if you've ever seen any screenshots of this game. I feel like even if you've only ever seen it in passing, you'll more than likely remember it. That trippy, unsettling atmosphere and the totally off-the-wall gameplay style I feel are kind of legendary at this point, so hearing that it took you by surprise, in a good way, doesn't surprise me at all. It's one of those games people don't just say they liked, they actually talk about it. Fantastic pick, and now I'm officially more curious than I was before. I am going to do my absolute best to add this game to my PlayStation 2 collection this coming year. Probably should get this game on my GameCube now that I'm thinking about it out loud. I'm sure it's faster and the experience is probably a little bit crisper, but I just cannot quit my PlayStation 2. And if I can play Max Payne on my PS2 and make it through, it should be alright.
Number 8.
Coming in at number 8 is Metroid Prime Remastered on the Nintendo Switch. I've mentioned it on the show before, but I do not usually gravitate towards Metroidvania-style games. I don't dislike them, but I inevitably get lost at some point, I'm unsure where to go next or what I need to do, and that can be very frustrating for me. That said, when a game makes it clear what my objectives are and where I should be heading, I have an absolute blast, and Metroid Prime managed to strike that balance for me pretty damn well. For the uninitiated, Metroid Prime Remastered is a remastered version of Metroid Prime, hence the name, which was originally released on the Nintendo GameCube back in 2002. It's a first-person action-adventure game, which is different compared to the other games in the series, which are 2D side-scrollers. In this game, you play as bounty hunter Samus Aran, exploring an alien planet filled with hostile creatures, environmental puzzles, and hidden upgrades. The game blends exploration, combat, and light puzzle solving, with progress tied to unlocking new abilities that let you access previously unreachable areas. It's a slower, more atmospheric experience than others in the series, in my opinion, and it still makes it a point to emphasize isolation, discovery, and gradual empowerment rather than constant action. I have been learning to really enjoy the Metroid series, and it honestly surprised me how well this game retained the charm of the franchise despite being in first person. That perspective actually amplified the atmosphere and immersion in a big way for me. I felt more alone and isolated than I ever have in a Metroid game, and that sense of solitude works completely in this game's favor. Combat was also more approachable than I expected too. The enemy lock-on feature works well most of the time, and being able to quickly dodge in a specific direction made encounters feel smooth and empowering, especially when I nailed the dodge timing. One of my favorite aspects of this game was the scanning system. Learning about the world, the enemies, and the story in real time made me feel like I was slowly conquering the planet through knowledge, not just through my firepower. I often used what I scanned to my advantage, and all of the scanning did a great job expanding the narrative without stopping the gameplay. The game also excels at making you feel weak at the start and genuinely feel powerful by the end in a way that feels completely natural, which is something that the Metroid series continues to do well. The audio and visual presentation of this game was spot on for me as well, which makes this one of the best games that I've played on my Switch so far. At the end of the day, there's not much I can say about Metroid Prime that hasn't been said already, but this game was an absolute joy to play, and it was an easy pick for this list. So much so that it made me feel compelled to continue my Metroid franchise journey this past year, and another game I played landed higher up on this list, which we will get to soon enough.
The Chozo's faith in Samus has been well rewarded, and now a new star shines in the universe. The bounty
Before we head into my number 7, let's check in with another member of the community. TieLord79, who reached out over on our Retro Wildlands Instagram page, laid out their favorites from last year. They said, probably Expedition 33, Need for Speed 1 on the PlayStation 1, and Double Dragon 2 on Game Boy. Those are a pretty cool spread of games, my friend. So, Expedition 33, yeah, that one absolutely deserves to be in the conversation. Personally, I spent a lot of time with it this year, and it left a strong impression on me too. I love seeing people talk about this game and what it means to them. It's a game that may or may not be on this list for me personally, but who am I kidding? Expedition 33 is absolutely on this list. You're just going to have to stick around and see where it landed for me. Now, throwing in Need for Speed on the original PlayStation is a great pull as well. I have always had a lot of respect for that series, and I actually have Need for Speed Most Wanted sitting on my PlayStation Vita, staring at me, judging me, willing me to finally play it anytime I boot that little device up, so seeing some early Need for Speed love always makes me smile. And then you had Double Dragon 2 on the Game Boy. Mwah, absolute classic. That's one that I've got a lot of love for too, and honestly, it's a game that I'd really like to cover on the podcast at some point. Solid choices across the board, old school, new school, and everything in between.
Number 7.
Coming in at number 7 is Theatrhythm Final Bar Line, the Final Fantasy rhythm game, and I have to start by saying this. I never thought I would enjoy a rhythm game. When I was younger, the genre just never grabbed me, but that completely changed when I discovered the Theatrhythm series. Final Bar Line isn't just a great rhythm game, it is the ultimate love letter to Final Fantasy. For me, it celebrates the best thing about that series, and that's the music. I've had the pleasure of experiencing Distant Worlds, a traveling concert led by Arnie Roth that puts on a full-scale show with an orchestra, choir, and multiple soloists as they celebrate Final Fantasy's music. All it took was one time attending this concert for me to fall head over heels in love with this series all over again and its amazing music. So, when Final Bar Line dropped, there was no way I wasn't playing this game. I knew I was going to have a good time with this game, but it wasn't until I really sunk my teeth into this experience that it left such a lasting impression on me and landed its way on this list. The game itself offers a variety of modes to keep things feeling fresh as you go about it. There are series quests that guide you through music from specific Final Fantasy titles, music stages for quick pick-up and play sessions, and even an endless mode if you really want to test your skills. But what really hooked me, even more so than the music itself, was how this game blends rhythm gameplay with light RPG mechanics. It's nothing all that complicated or all that intuitive, really, but you can build a 4-person party of Final Fantasy characters from all across the series. You get to level them up as you complete songs, and you can customize their abilities as you play. Your performance will directly affect how well your party fights. If you nail the notes, your team will do more damage and use stronger skills. Screw up one too many times, and, well, I'm sure you can figure out how that's gonna go. It's not the deepest RPG system in the world, and it doesn't need to be. The real star here is, and will always be, the music. Playing through iconic tracks while watching your party grow is incredibly satisfying, and it kept me coming back time and time again. I can't count how many times I would come home from work after a bad day, and this game is what brought me back. All it would take was a few songs and my mood would be instantly better, and I can't thank this game enough for that. Whether you're a rhythm game fan, a Final Fantasy fan, or just someone looking for a relaxing game with amazing music, I cannot recommend Theatrhythm Final Bar Line enough. This game always puts me in a good mood, and it has become my go-to when I need to unwind. I know for a fact that I will continue to play this game for many years to come.
Number 6.
Number 6 on my list of favorite games I played in 2025 is pretty much the Terminator movie I always wanted, but we never got. Terminator Resistance was one of the biggest surprises of all the games that I played last year. The Terminator franchise has been pulled in so many directions over the years. Movies, shows, games, not all of them great. So it wasn't hard not to go into this game with tempered expectations. A lot of projects try to capture the magic of the first 2 films and just don't. So needless to say, I went into Terminator Resistance cautiously optimistic at best. And while it's definitely not a perfect game, it ended up being way better than I was expecting, and it did an incredibly good job capturing that classic Terminator feel. So much so that I played through this game multiple times. Just to give you a brief overview, Terminator Resistance is a first-person shooter set during the Future War, where you play as Jacob Rivers, a soldier in the Resistance as humanity gears up for its final push against Skynet. The story in this game was better than I anticipated, especially as you start building relationships with other characters that you come across and realize that your choices can actually affect their fates. There's also this mysterious figure who keeps showing up to guide you and help you throughout the game, and unraveling what's really going on there was surprisingly compelling. Without spoiling anything, the way the game ties into the first 2 movies by the end made it very clear to me that this game was made by people who genuinely love that era of the franchise. I had a genuine smile on my face when I saw these connections unfold, and the best part, the developers didn't just drop Easter eggs in the game for the sake of it. The things I saw and some of the story beats had actual thought put into them, and everything seemed to have a purpose. What really won me over, though, was the gameplay loop. This isn't a run-and-gun style shooter. You don't regenerate health, ammo can be scarce, and combat often forces you to think before you pull the trigger. When you're not in combat, you're scavenging, you're crafting, you're exploring, and taking on side missions that actually feel worthwhile. That blend of exploration, combat, and story really clicked for me. Add in graphics that were pretty spot on when they wanted to be, a fantastic soundtrack that nails the tension and epic moments, and a clear sense of passion from the developers, you've got yourself something special here. If you are a fan of first-person shooters, or especially if you love the first 2 Terminator movies, I think this game is an absolute must-play. It is a little rough around the edges as this game was clearly not a AAA experience, but that does not detract from how much fun this game was to actually play.
This is it! That's the lab that keeps the time displacement thing! Spread out!
PDE just went online. I repeat, PDE just went
Suppressive fire!
The first Terminator just went through. Another one.
We're almost there!
The third Terminator has been sent. I repeat, the third Terminator has been sent.
Our next community comment comes from Dallas, who reached out over on our Facebook page. Dallas said, I didn't play any games released this year. I wasn't wowed by any either. Not my kind of game or frustrated at the rising costs, but also the inordinate number of remasters. So I played other games. Fallout 4 got a whack, as did Cyberpunk 2077. I played some Red Dead Redemption 2. I'm currently playing Red Dead Redemption 1. I gave Ghost of Tsushima a go too. Wreckfest 1 got some time, probably a couple of others that I'm forgetting. Dallas, I really appreciate this perspective because I know a lot of people are feeling the same way right now. Between rising game prices and what feels like an endless wave of remasters, it makes total sense to step back and spend some time with games that have already proven themselves. And honestly, that backlog you mentioned is stacked. Games like Fallout 4, Cyberpunk 2077, and the Red Deads are the kind of experiences that you can sink dozens of hours into and still feel like you're getting something meaningful out of them. I can especially attest to the original Red Dead Redemption, as it was one of the first games that I ever 100%ed from Rockstar. There's absolutely nothing wrong with skipping the new releases and revisiting or rediscovering great games on your own terms. It's part of what makes this hobby so personal. All the games you've got listed here, Dallas, puts you at a solid year for gaming, even without having to chase the latest thing.
Number 5.
Coming in at number 5 is Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles, a recently released remaster of the original Final Fantasy Tactics from the PlayStation era. And I have to say, I never thought I would see the day that Final Fantasy Tactics ever received a remaster. I literally squealed for joy when this game was announced, and I jumped on it immediately. While I know remasters seem to be the thing lately, which is something that Dallas just called out in his comment, certain remasters, especially for me, are quite welcome, as long as they're the games that I want to play. For anyone unfamiliar with Tactics, this is a turn-based tactical RPG that plays out on grid-based battlefields, where positioning, party composition, and smart decision-making matter just as much as raw stats. In this game, you guide a growing group of units through story-driven battles, you manage what jobs and abilities that they have, and you also have to outfit them with better and better equipment. For me personally, the original Final Fantasy Tactics is one of my favorite games of all time, thanks entirely to the neighbor kid across the street who introduced it to me back in the day. The Ivalice Chronicles does an incredible job of staying true to the original game experience while adding some very welcome quality of life improvements. Menus are easier to navigate, you can retreat back to the world map when you need to, and there's a resource that helps you keep track of the game's dense story beats. All of the changes and upgrades that the game has to offer never messes with what made this game special in the first place. They just make it smoother and more approachable, especially for modern players. Final Fantasy Tactics' story is one of the biggest reasons this game still holds up today. It's very Game of Thrones in tone, with rich lore, political intrigue, and a world full of morally gray characters, where it's often hard to tell who's truly good or evil. Ramza, driven by a strong personal sense of justice, and Delita, fueled by ambition and a desire to reshape the world after being crushed by it, are, at least in my opinion, two of the best written main characters in the entire Final Fantasy series. Their intertwined journeys are compelling from start to finish, and I often found myself really contemplating their choices, relating to both of them in my own way. On the gameplay side, the job system is phenomenal. You can mix and match classes to create incredibly flexible units. For example, a black mage who can also heal with white magic. A thief with time magic that allows them to act even faster or slow others down. You can also create a hard-hitting monk who specializes in debilitating enemies with negative status effects. Really, the possibilities are nigh endless. The grid-based combat is easy to understand, but it's very hard to master in the best way possible, and every battle asks you to think carefully about who you bring and how you approach it. Grinding levels and job points is still a joy for RPG purists, and yes, you can still attack your own units for experience, so throwing rocks at your team is absolutely encouraged. I do also want to note that I had the chance to talk about this game as a guest on Pixel Project Radio, another great gaming podcast that's on my personal rotation. So be sure to check that out if you want to dive into a multiple episode gameplay and story analysis. I have links to all of those shows over on our Retro Wildlands website, but please make it a point to check out Pixel Project Radio wherever you get your podcasts. Rick is a fantastic host, and his discussions are well thought out and very engaging. I had a blast talking about this game on the show, and I know you listening will enjoy this game too.
The Father watch over you, child.
And you, Elder.
Milady, the enemy is upon us.
You got Tanner's men?
We are paid for this. Time to earn our keep. What is it, Ramza? You above getting paid to do a job?
I'm a knight no longer. Just another sellsword.
Right then. To battle.
Deliver us, O Lord.
Next up to chime in from the community is longtime Wildlander Curtis, who had this to say over on our Facebook page. I'll be honest, this wasn't a big games grabbing my attention year. For me, this year was more about delving into my backlog on Steam and grabbing a bunch of achievements while I was at it. I did some serious cleaning and working my way through my entirely too large list of games, and according to this year's Steam replay, I grabbed over 625 achievements and fully completed 35 games. Although I did put a lot of extra love into Final Fantasy VII and the headliners. First off, Curtis, over 625 achievements and 35 completed games? That is incredible. That's not just playing games, that's commitment. I can relate to this a lot myself, as I did a fair bit of achievement and trophy hunting this year, and once you get into that mindset, it really changes how you engage with your backlog. For better or worse, I might add. I also love that this was more of a cleaning house year than chasing whatever was new and shiny. There's something deeply satisfying about finally knocking games off that ever-growing backlog. Final Fantasy VII getting some extra love totally makes sense though, and the headliners is one that I'm not personally familiar with, but it definitely looks interesting, and is officially on my radar now. Huge respect to you, Curtis, for turning this past year into a productive one.
Number 4.
I have to imagine a good portion of you probably recognize that music. Coming in at number 4 is Super Mario Odyssey on the Nintendo Switch, and yes, I feel like I might be the last person on the planet to have finally played this game. It took me years to even get a Switch, and once I did, I still sat on this game for way too long. Not because I didn't want to play it, but because I thought I had already knew what I was going to get myself into. Colorful worlds, collectibles everywhere, and a formula that I'd seen plenty of times before. I pretty much convinced myself that I had outgrown this kind of experience, but spoiler alert, past me was very, very wrong. I would assume most of you know about this game, but in case you don't, Super Mario Odyssey is a 3D platformer where Mario travels across a variety of distinct kingdoms in an effort to rescue Princess Peach. Again. Along the way, Mario will search out power moons, which fuel his journey forward. While there is a loose story path, the real joy comes from exploration. Every kingdom, from the Sand Kingdom to New Donk City to the Moon, feels completely different in tone, style, and mechanics. The freedom to explore your own pace, combined with the sheer number of secrets tucked away in every corner, kept pulling me deeper and deeper into this game. One of the game's standout features is Cappy, Mario's new sentient hat. It's actually a sentence I never thought I would say in my life, but I will say I was pretty taken with Cappy once I got past the gimmicky nature of his existence. Cappy in-game lets Mario do all sorts of different things. He can help Mario extend his jumps, he can attack enemies, but the real magic comes from being able to take control of enemies and then use their unique abilities. Every time I captured something new, I could not wait to see what it could do and whether it would help me reach a power moon just out of reach. It's one of the most creative mechanics in the series, and while I would have loved a few more traditional power-ups, controlling things like a giant T-Rex more than made up for it. What really surprised me though was how approachable this game was. It's easy to see the game's credits without much frustration, and it's welcoming enough that even someone who doesn't play games often, such as my wife, would be able to jump in and have fun exploring the worlds. The tougher challenges mostly live in the post-game, and while I know there are over 900 power moons to collect, the couple hundred that I did find naturally felt like the perfect experience for me. In the end, Super Mario Odyssey reminded me that there's nothing wrong with a familiar formula when it's executed this well. It's joyful, it's creative, it's endlessly fun, and I am so glad I finally went on this adventure.
Number 3.
My number 3 slot goes to a little game called Dispatch. This episodic adventure game, which featured some talent left over from Telltale Games, who you might remember from such bangers as The Walking Dead and The Wolf Among Us, came out this year and completely took me by surprise. I ended up finishing this game just days before the end of the year, but it made a huge impression on me. Which I'm hoping isn't recency bias, but still. This game was something else. From a writing standpoint, I thought the story was extremely well done, and honestly, there wasn't a single character in this game that I didn't enjoy spending some time with. The dialogue felt natural, sharp, and confident in what it was trying to be. The humor especially landed for me, though it's what I would call very specific humor, which I can totally see it not resonating with everybody. But man, for me, it hit perfectly. I laughed out loud more times than I can remember, which is something I don't say about a lot of video games these days. A big reason this game works so well for me is the main character, Robert. I really connected with him, and Aaron Paul's voiceover performance was fantastic. Robert is a battle-hardened guy who's clearly poured everything he has into something that he believed in at one point. He's also tired, he's a little weary, he's got a sharp wit, and he stands up for himself. Doesn't take any crap from anybody, but he's also capable of real compassion when the moment calls for it. Of all the video game characters that I've interacted with this past year, or really just over my gaming career in general, Robert felt incredibly human in a way that really stuck with me. Plus, his best friend was his little fat dog, which I can totally relate to. No, Dee Dee, I was not calling you fat. Though you do have a nice stomach like I do. Anyway, any game that gives me a great protagonist and a great dog is already doing something right. That said though, this was not a flawless experience for me though. As much as I love the character work, and this feels strange to say, I think the developers may have spent too much time with their characters. The central plot in Dispatch, which sees you tracking down the evil Shroud, often felt like it took a back seat, and when everything finally came together, it all wrapped up a little too quickly for my taste. For me, it felt like the developers spent 80% of their story just building up the characters, their relationships with each other, and then the last 20% of the game was fitting in that story at the very end. Really, I wanted more time with that core conflict. But still, the strength of the writing, the characters, and how much this game made me laugh and reflect is why Dispatch earns its spot as my number 3 game of the past year. I'm already making my way through another run of this game just to make some new narrative choices, and I can't wait to see what new thing that I discover, or what else I can learn about the game's awesome cast of characters.
Where was the shootout?
Parking lot. Didn't think taking a desk job would have me bleeding this often. What are you doing here?
I had a dream last night that we were fucking. Usually I don't remember my dreams, but this one was pretty vivid.
How did I do?
I didn't finish.
Not what I asked. We're talking about me. So this is why you've been acting so weird all day.
I'm doing that thing where I imagine being with someone, you know? See how it feels, how it looks. You know, like trying on a dress.
You were there.
I could have been. I could be anywhere.
And you chose to be here.
Oh, sorry. I tried not to. I tried not to do that.
Don't worry about it, water boy.
Sound.
Bathrooms are for shitting after your first coffee and picking shrapnel out of your chest. Not for whatever this is.
Ugh! You ruined this for me!
It's... I know. My apologies.
Our last community comment came from the Remember 64 podcast. They reached out on our Blue Sky page and had this to say. I can easily say Expedition 33, but instead I'll go with a top 3 more people need to play and a trio that I loved. Drop Duchy, Mainframes, and Shinobi Art of Vengeance. There it is again, Expedition 33, and it keeps coming up for a good reason, but I really appreciate you sharing a couple games that I personally have never heard of. Drop Duchy and Mainframes are both games that I wasn't familiar with before this, and that's honestly one of my favorite parts of doing these community check-ins. When someone says they loved a trio of games like this, especially ones that aren't already everywhere, that immediately makes me want to look them up and see what they're all about. Admittedly, I have not done that with these two games, but that is on my to-do list. Now, Shinobi Art of Vengeance. That game looks fantastic, though I haven't played it yet, but I have started playing Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, which I think is pretty similar, and if it is, I am all about giving Shinobi a go. Awesome picks all the way around, and thank you for shouting out some games that might have flown under the radar for a lot of people this year.
Number 2.
My number 2 game is another game I wish I wouldn't have waited so long to play. But now that I finally have, wow. Just wow. Metroid Dread on the Nintendo Switch was fantastic from start to finish for me. And again, I don't really care for this style of game, but this game in particular did it just right, like it was made specifically for me. I was immediately captivated by the smooth, fast gameplay and that classic sense of isolation the series is known for. To set the stage for anyone unfamiliar, the game starts with the Galactic Federation discovering that the X-Parasite, thought extinct, has reappeared on a desolate planet called ZDR. The Federation sent 7 Emmy robots to investigate, but lost contact with them. Emmy, by the way, standing for Extraplanetary Multiform Mobile Identifiers. Having lost contact with the Emmy, Samus is dispatched to figure out what's going on. In the very first moments, the game throws you into a tense, stripped-down version of her power suit, robs you of all of her abilities, and puts you in a very simple yet raw situation. The danger on ZDR is too great, and you need to get back to your ship and get off the planet. That's it. Good luck. At this point, most players know what to expect when it comes to a Metroid game, and Dread delivers on that expectation, with some fun twists along the way. For starters, Dread nails the exploration loop. You have the freedom to roam the planet, and while certain areas are blocked until you find the right abilities, there's no wrong way to play. Just like others in the series, Dread rewards curiosity, clever use of new tools, and sometimes creative ways to break the intended sequence of events. Figuring out where to go next and mastering the abilities you pick up is endlessly satisfying and gives you a true sense of autonomy in the world. Again, it's pretty much what you come to expect, but for me, one of the standout additions here are the Emmy robots. These silent hunters patrol their zones, and you can't take them down, not without the right upgrades. Being spotted means a heart-pounding chase, and if an enemy happens to grab you, you have just a small window to parry their attacks, or you risk facing a game over. They are terrifying at first, exhilarating once you learn how to deal with them, and they do an amazing job of amplifying that sense of helplessness and tension that Metroid does so well. Even with a full arsenal of weapons and abilities, Dread constantly makes you feel like every corner could still be dangerous, and I loved that feeling. Presentation-wise, this is one of the slickest, best-looking games on the Switch. I was equally impressed with the sound design, and I cannot recommend playing with headphones enough. My only tiny gripe is how easy it is to get turned around in such a large, multi-zone world, which is the one thing I don't care for in games like this, but again, it's more of a personal issue than a flaw with the game itself. I didn't find myself lost for very long, and the world itself was fun to work my way through, even if I saw the same locations over and over. The mark of a good game for me comes down to how well it can immerse the player in the experience, and Dread found a way to get me excited anytime I booted up the game and settled into it. If you somehow have not played this game yet, please give this game a try. I remember finishing this game and just smiling while the credits rolled, thinking back to the amazing experience I had. And I want you to feel that way too.
Entering the atmosphere in T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Number 1.
To the surprise of absolutely nobody, my number one favorite game that I played in 2025 was Claire Obscure Expedition 33. I don't even know where to begin with this game. When Expedition 33 was released, I quickly heard so many people sing the praises of this game. Any time I was online or screwing around on social media, I found so many people playing and enjoying this game that I actually let the hype get to me for the first time ever, and I decided to play through it. And now that I have, I cannot imagine a world where I've not played this game. Not to be overly dramatic, but this game is life-changing, and it consumed my life long after the game was over. Okay, so now I have to try to put into words why I love this game so much. I'm probably gonna ramble a little bit here, so bear with me while I try to get this straight. Expedition 33 centers around several characters who hail from Lumiere, a city that seems to be the last sanctuary of human life. You'll notice right away that the world itself is very unique and is presented in an almost surreal, dreamlike place. It's sometimes beautiful, sometimes unsettling, but it is always captivating. What seems to be at the center of the world stands a black monolith. Once a year, a being known as the Paintress awakens and paints a number on the monolith. Everyone whose age is past that number fades away from existence. Every year, the number decreases and more people are erased in an event called the Gommage. To stop this cycle, citizens of Lumiere band together in expeditions and set off to destroy the Paintress so she may never paint death again. No expedition has succeeded up to this point, obviously, and in what feels like a final act of desperation, Expedition 33 sets off on a quest to hopefully break the cycle. Now, from the moment I started playing this game, I knew this was something special. The opening of the game hit me harder than I would have ever anticipated. While I wasn't 100% sure what was happening at the time, I'm not ashamed to admit that I shed a single tear as the events unfolded, and that would only be the first of many as the story played out. There's something about the way this game tells its story that's completely different from what I've experienced in a long time. From a writing standpoint, it respects the player. It trusts you to figure things out, to read between the lines, to explore both the narrative and the mechanics without any sort of hand-holding. You're not just being told a story, you're discovering it, and that makes every revelation that this story has to offer all that more impactful. The thematic elements of Expedition 33 are another thing that stuck with me. Without spoiling anything, this game weaves together themes and ideas around grief, depression, isolation, and the way people cope with both personal and collective trauma. I know that comes off very bleak, but it's not bleak for the sake of bleakness. It's juxtaposed with moments of whimsical beauty, humor, and even wonder. The contrast between all of that is breathtaking. I was astounded by how many times I felt genuinely sad or emotional, but then moments later I would feel happy and elated. None of this, though, was jarring. It all felt incredibly natural. To speak to the visuals in the game, they are, quite frankly, unmatched. They're sometimes vibrant and whimsical, other times dark and somber, perfectly matching the emotional tone of the narrative. I could feel the world, the weight of the story, and the small moments of joy all at once. It's a game that makes you feel every single beat, and it stuck with me long after the game was over. And yet, it wasn't just the story or the visuals that made this number one. The combat system was a revelation. It's fundamentally a turn-based RPG, but it layers in real-time elements, such as dodging and parrying enemy attacks, for instance, and these additions kept your heart racing and your mind fully engaged. You're not just choosing commands and watching them play out, you're interacting with each and every fight, timing your inputs, reacting to threats, and learning on the fly. It can be a bit daunting at first, but it's incredibly satisfying when you take the time to learn how your enemies attack and then use that against them. It all adds a sense of urgency and intimacy to every single encounter. At the same time, the game quietly nods to other video games. For gaming veterans, it's easy to see the DNA of older RPGs, the subtle influence of atmospheric exploration games, even some visual echoes from classic strategy and adventure titles, all without ever feeling derivative. Expedition 33 is wholly its own thing, yet familiar in the best way possible. And then, the music! Lorien Testard has crafted a score that haunts, inspires, and comforts all at once. I listened to so much of this game's music on Spotify this past year that my Spotify Wrapped labeled me as one of the top 0.2% of listeners. While crazy to see that, it was also very unsurprising to me. I cannot stop. That music is just that good. The melodies linger, the themes echo the story's emotional highs and lows, and even when I'm away from the game, I found myself transported back to its world just by hearing a single note. But what truly cements Clair Obscur as my number one, though, is the journey itself and the way it lingers long after you finish. The ending to this game hits hard. Without giving anything away, the game explores grief, loss, and our coping mechanisms in such a raw, honest way that really left me stunned. I applaud games like The Last of Us that commit to a single path when telling the narrative they want, but what Expedition 33 did was expand on that idea. They told a story that largely centers on grief and loss, but the game's conclusion allowed you as the player to decide how you would reconcile with those things. I promise it makes more sense when you finish the actual game, but all that to say, I realized at the end I wasn't just experiencing a game, I was actively reflecting on my own life, reflecting on human resilience, and on how each of us choose to face darkness. I've rarely had a game make me feel this deeply, and the fact that I thought about it constantly, at work, running errands, even in quiet moments just thinking about the next session, speaks volumes about the pull this game had on me. I was genuinely excited to play this game and practically counted down the hours until I could again. That doesn't happen for me often anymore, and being able to experience that again brought me back to how games used to make me feel as a kid. At the end of the day, I cannot recommend this game enough. Personally, while I'm happy this game received a ton of accolades at the Game Awards this year and has been a topic of many a conversation, I don't really care about any of that. Expedition 33 made me feel things I never knew a video game could make me feel, and that, of all the things out there about this game right now, that's what sticks with me. It's rare to find a title that balances challenging gameplay, emotional storytelling, and a world you want to explore over and over again. I love talking with other people about their experiences with this game, how it made them feel, what they noticed, what it meant to them. That's the kind of game, though, that this is. One that becomes a shared emotional experience, and one that I'll carry with me for a very, very long time. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 isn't just my number one game of 2025, it's a reminder of why I play video games in the first place.
If saving you means losing you, then so be it.
We only need to incapacitate him.
We'll find a way to kill him.
That, my friends, is the end of the road for us today and the perfect close to the year. This has been episode 75 of the Retro Wildlands, my top 10 favorite games I played in 2025. Thank you all very much for tuning into the show today, and man, does it feel good to be back. What a year it's been, full of moments that made me smile, think, and feel accomplished. Each game on this list earned its spot not just because it was fun, but because it stuck with me, challenged me, and reminded me why I fell in love with gaming in the first place. I'm so grateful to have shared these experiences with all of you, and I hope something here inspires you to explore a new world, maybe revisit a favorite, or just take a moment to enjoy the magic of gaming. Here's to another year of adventures, discoveries, and stories that make us feel something genuine. Thank you again for joining me around the campfire for this journey, my friends. It would not have been the same without you. If you like the show today and you want to show it and myself some support, please consider subscribing to the Retro Wildlands on your preferred podcasting platform. Moving into 2026, my goal is to release a new show each week, with a long-form show focused on a retro game one week, followed by a short-form modern game review the next. So, subscribing to the show will ensure that you're notified the moment new content goes live. You can also follow us on our social media pages or check out theretrowildlands.com for the latest on the show, check out some mini-game reviews and blogs, or even check out some of the videos that I've made or links to the podcast that I have had the pleasure of being a guest on. The Retro Wildlands is also part of the SuperPod Network, home of some other awesome video game podcasts and other gaming content, and you can follow us over there at superpodnetwork.com. Other than this show, you can check out other awesome shows such as Game Addicts with Bill and Matt, the Super Blog Codec with Danny, the Pre-Order Bonus Podcast, Bar Silence, a video game music podcast, and more. There's blog posts, videos, and tons of other content, so be sure to check all of that out by heading over to superpodnetwork.com. Now, if you really like the show and you have a little bit of time to spare, I would love it if you gave us a good review or even shared the show on social media with your friends. You can leave a star rating for the show on Spotify, but you can also leave that and a written review over on iTunes, Podchaser, Podbean, and Podcast Addict, just to name a few spots. Good reviews and shares will help the show appear in more search feeds, I would assume, but more than that. It'll let me know that you like what it is that I'm trying to do here and that I'm delivering something that you really enjoy. But, like I say every episode, you are under no obligation to do any of this. Just the fact that you're listening to my show right now is much more than I could have ever asked for, so above all else, thank you for being here. So, what's coming up next? After taking some time off at the end of last year, I came into 2026 with a bona fide schedule of games and topics I plan to cover, which will flip-flop between long-form retro games like you're used to, but I'll also be sprinkling in shorter episodes on a modern video game from our expedition log. Next week, we'll be diving into Metroid Dread. Now, while I did just talk about it on the show today, I'll have a show in mind that'll expand my thoughts and experiences on the game, and I'll be sprinkling in some more music and sound to amplify the experience. After that, I'll be diving into Blades of Steel on the original Nintendo. I love ice hockey on the NES, but I feel as though I would do you all and myself a disservice if I didn't finally play through Blades of Steel and give it a fair shake. I've already started to play this game and capture my thoughts on it, and I have to say, this upcoming episode is one that you will not want to miss. There will be action, there will be drama, and people getting their teeth knocked out, all for your entertainment. In all seriousness, the next couple weeks should be a good time, so I hope to see you back again when our Wildlands expedition sets off on another fantastic adventure. Until then, my friends, my name is Nomad, and you can find me roaming the Retro Wildlands.